Welcome to the funnel. My name is John Shea and I'm president of Alignment Group. Before we get started today, I'm going to apologize here for a second because my voice is it's cracking a little bit and I might lose it. I have a bit of a sore throat and a cold, and I haven't quite figured out which one of my kids gave it to me, but I'm still investigating. Not sure what I'll do if I find out which one gave it to me. So maybe it's just satisfaction. Anyway, let's jump into the 6-step hiring process. This is the third in the series, and we're going to talk about search today, searching for the right sales candidate. And this is episode number 165. So we're going to cover today, good salespeople aren't where you think they are. Marketing and Sales 101 is a formula for attracting candidates. It's more than writing an ad. And my last bullet point is recruiters need to be managed. So let's start with good salespeople aren't where you think they are. So if you think about it, great salespeople make up, I'd say, somewhere between 10 and maybe 15% of the total sales population. So I think oftentimes managers are starting to realize, at least at this point, that hiring the best salespeople takes a little bit more time and effort and maybe a little bit more in resources. Unfortunately, what I've seen is instead of taking the time to hire the right sales folks, they are trying to fill the void. They're trying to just put someone in the seat because they're desperate to make a hire. They have an empty territory. There's a lot of pressure from above to make a decision, et cetera, et cetera. And basically, you're guaranteeing that you're going to hire the wrong person. If you're looking on job boards as your only means of finding a salesperson, you're looking in the wrong place. Yes, occasionally you can. I'm not going to put down every job board out there. But it's really hard to find good salespeople on a job board. You can put a post and you can do an ad, and I've shown people how to do that, and I'll show you how to do it if you want me to. How to write the correct ad and how to drive your search results up so you can attract quality people, because good people, if things aren't working out in their existing companies, will be looking for a job. And that's one of the things I want to touch on here, is that successful salespeople generally are currently employed. And one of the things I've learned when hiring salespeople, if I'm interviewing somebody that's out of a job and they told me they were downsized, I find it hard to believe. Highly successful people aren't downsized. They're revenue generators. When downsizing occurs, they're getting rid of an expense to the bottom line, not something that generates revenue. It doesn't make sense. So I really believe successful salespeople are currently employed. If I were you, I'd be looking for reps who have exceeded their targets. Now, I wouldn't go crazy on that. I think exceeding their target is important, but there's a lot of other things. But wouldn't it be nice to know that someone is overachieving? Now, we want to find out why, what the circumstances are around that, but it could be a nice starting point for you. So this is a little bit of a new take on hiring salespeople. Marketing and Sales 101 is a formula for attracting candidates. Most of you that have listened to this podcast in the past know that I've talked a lot about marketing and a lot about inbound marketing as a great way to drive revenue. If you have a good website, a good inbound marketing program, good sales team behind that, you can combine your efforts and really drive revenue. First, you put quality product and content on your website. You attract the right people into the pipeline. They become leads. You sell them. Sales reps build credibility by contributing content and with their outbound activity, deploying some of those inbound techniques. So I've talked about that, and I've talked about how it can help drive revenue. Well, why not use that same process, same thought pattern for attracting good candidates? Why don't we have a page dedicated to that, to inbound marketing, to draw in the right candidate to come work for us? You can build an entire process around developing good candidates through really good marketing, really good branding, really good outreach, good inbound techniques, writing about your company, testimonials from employees, et cetera, same way you do inbound marketing and branding, you attract good salespeople. Now, I know there's a number of companies that do this. I think Apple does it very well. Large company, obviously. Pretty easy to find people if you're Apple. But even some of your smaller companies are beginning to do that. You can build yourself a pipeline of quality candidates. In addition to that, I'm not saying sell people on the job before you interview them, but it has to be a little bit more grassroots. Your sales reps talking to maybe prospects. Maybe there's a sales rep for another company they see that's really good and might be a good fit for you. LinkedIn contacts, et cetera, et cetera. So you build a pipeline of good candidates and you attract them to you. Create some competition. Now, I could spend hours on this and really expand on it, but I think you get the concept that you deploy the same tactics for bringing customers and attracting customers to you, and you use that same sort of process to attract quality sales candidates. So you're not spending your day mining the job boards. But let me take a moment here and talk about the 6-step hiring process infographic. I think this is really cool. So if you go to the website and you click on the funnel, you'll see the podcast page and all the podcasts will be listed there. Click on this episode, and this is 165. And in the show notes of the blog itself, the written part of this podcast, there'll be a link to receive the 6-step hiring process infographic. Just click on that and fill it out, and we'll send you the infographic. And the great part about the infographic is you can print it out or keep it in electronic form. It just helps you to stay focused on the 6 steps that you need to follow to hire high-quality salespeople. There's also a little image on the sidebar there that you can click and do the same thing. So just go ahead and fill it out, and we'll send you the 6-step hiring process infographic. It's more than writing an ad. So why am I saying this? Why am I putting this down when I just said I'm not a big fan of job boards? Because some of you are going to write an ad, and you're going to put it out there. And even if you do something on your website in a way that I described before, what I've seen written is terrible. Terrible. So I'm going to try to give you some insight into how you should construct that ad. If you're going to do it on your website, or you're going to do something on a job board like Indeed or Monster. Be very specific. Be very specific about the job and about the qualities they must possess. Whatever it is, if they need to be a self-starter, everybody puts that down, but you know what I mean. Do they have to be willing to do certain things? If the job requires hunting for new business, that's quite different than farming. So be very specific about the qualities you're looking for. And don't say, I'm just looking for a self-starter who works very hard. Nail it down. This is what you have to do in this job. And this is what we require. A lot of people hide compensation. If you start by hiding compensation, then you're not really that comfortable with what you're paying. If the average income in the role you're trying to fill is $120,000 and you're posting a $60,000 salary, you're going to get a $60,000 employee. Be realistic about what the job compensation should be in that role, in your market, in this economy. And post it. You don't have to post the full compensation plan, but you can post the income. You not only can post the income, you can post their income requirements, how much they would have had to have made just to interview with you. So if you're hiring somebody for $150,000, you don't want somebody whose highest income was $30,000. You want somebody that hits the levels you're looking for. I want to know about their prior success. Be very specific. Prior success in your previous role. What does that mean? Anybody can define prior success to whatever they want it to be. Prior success, I showed up every morning. Got out of bed, I never called in sick. That was 40% of quota, but I never called in sick. It's ridiculous. So define prior success. What does prior success look like to you? Tell them who they're selling to. Why is that important? Well, if I'm looking for someone to sell to CEOs of Fortune 500 companies, I'm not going to want to hire somebody whose only experience is purchasing managers at mid-level companies. It's two different types of people, two different skill sets required to penetrate the market. I'm not sure I want to go down that road and make that decision and take that risk. So I want to be very specific on who they're selling to, the company size, the market size, exactly what it is we're looking for. If you're selling to Fortune 500, again, it's different than selling to small to medium-sized businesses. If I'm looking for experience there, I need to spell that out. Additionally, I need to talk about the competition and the sales cycle. Who are the competitors? Not to be name specific, but this is the competitive landscape we're dealing with. This is how competitive it is. This is the average sales cycle for our product. 90 days, 6 months, a year, whatever it is. Lay it out there. And there's more. But I just covered on the kind of the important ones. I think you're getting what I'm trying to say here is we need to be very specific about what it is we're looking for in you and your skill set and your previous success. I'm going to tell you as much about the job in that moment as I can, who you're selling to, the company size, the type of competition, what the expectations are, the sales cycle. And I'm going to be realistic about what you can make in this role. And I used to have this ongoing conversation with managers when we were hiring salespeople. Now, I've hired everything from very experienced salespeople and managers to just out of college. And it would drive me crazy when companies and managers would talk about income that was unrealistic on both ends, whether they thought we could get away with a lower salary versus or lower compensation versus this is how much you can make first year earnings. And it's in the stratosphere beyond what a kid out of college is going to be able to make first year because they're going to spend 9 months just learning how to tie their shoes. They're just learning how to sell. So I put it at the top end because one person 10 years ago made that money. Well, what are you setting yourself up for? A significant amount of disappointment. I'm going to be realistic about what you can earn first year. This is the top end. I'm not giving you the best that one person did 20 years ago. I'm giving you the average of the top end, the middle, and the bottom. And below that, you're probably not going to be here. So I'm very realistic about compensation because I want people to know what they're getting into. I don't want them to feel disappointed. And I don't want them to think, I'm not going to interview for this job because it doesn't pay enough. I want it to be in the right compensation. So I think you get my point there. So it's more than just writing a basic ad with generic fluff words to attract people. You only want to attract people who you want to hire. You don't want to open it up to the vast, wide open market of salespeople. So the more specific you are, the narrower the field becomes. And that's better for you. Some of you will use recruiters. I don't have a problem with that. So some people in my business who feel like sales managers, business owners, VPs should do all of the recruiting themselves, where they should have HR do some recruiting and pass them along. I'm not really a big fan of that. But I think recruiters have a place in our world. They can become very valuable to us. But that means they need some management on the front end. You just can't blindly trust a recruiter because you have this relationship. I'm paying you, you're providing me with candidates, everybody's happy. Obviously, I'm going to want to see some very specific things from them before I even get into a relationship. I'm going to want some feedback. I'm going to want some recommendations, et cetera, et cetera. But once I enter into that relationship, I need to be very aware of how that relationship is constructed. This is a business transaction. These people aren't your friends. I don't mean that in a negative way. This is a business moment. So you will develop a relationship. You'll if you're working with a larger company, you'll develop the ones you like more than others. And I've done that. But I can tell you they understood my process. This is how I hire. It's not a secret. There's no secret. They can prep the candidate all they want. But at the end of the day, they got to get past me. So I'm going to explain my process in detail. This is how I operate. This is my program for hiring salespeople. I'm going to specifically spell out the requirements. And I'm going to be very clear on where there's wiggle room and where there's not. And they're going to tell me all the reasons why my process needs to be tweaked, because they understand the market. They understand what I'm looking for. And you should look at this candidate, even though they don't meet these requirements, they're dynamic and you're going to love them. And I'm going to say no. I'm going to hold true to what I believe. I'm going to be very specific in what I'm looking for. I'm going to explain my assessment. And oh boy, I use an assessment tool. Like I've said before, I use the Objective Management Group's assessment tool. Best assessment I've ever seen. Bar none. Great tool. I'm going to explain in detail my assessment. I'm going to walk them through it. I'll even show them a sample. I have nothing to hide. Here it is. This is what I do. This is how I do it. This is what I'm looking for. And I'm very clear that the candidate needs to take the assessment prior to me even considering them. I'll review the assessment, and then I'll determine, and then I'll look at the resume, and then I'll determine, do I want to bring them in based on the assessment results? And really, the assessment is great because it gives me a thumbs up or thumbs down. And then there's one category for the middle of the road. Maybe you want to consider them. They're missing a couple of things that you really need here. But if you're willing to work with them, they might be worth an interview. And then I decide, do I want to bring them in? But I'm very clear on the program and the process. And I'm not going to accept mediocrity. I'm not going to accept them sending somebody to me that doesn't meet my expectations. And I can tell you, as I've gone into these relationships with recruiters, there's been some epic battles in the beginning. But once we settle into the relationship and they know what I want from them and they begin to deliver that, we have success. And it saves me a ton of time. Because they're my eyes and ears. They know what to filter down to me. And of course, they get paid for it. I'm not going to deny them their income opportunity for finding me a good candidate, because one good sale usually wipes out the cost of that and then some. But the minute you start going down the road of accepting the mediocre and accepting the people that they send to you because they're selling them in their email, their 6-paragraph email about how great they are, and they've tweaked the resume and sent it over to you, you're in trouble. I can read through those resumes and I can tell where they change it, and I can tell, where the fluff is. So if you're going to go into a relationship with a recruiter, that's my recommendation. That's it today for the funnel. If you get a chance, go to alignment-group.com/the funnel and subscribe. Just a little subscribe button up at the top right-hand corner. Subscribers get really cool stuff from us. Every time a new funnel comes out, you get updated. And any kind of content that we're providing to funnel subscribers, you'll get a link to that as well. It's always good stuff. You can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn Radio, all the good podcast places. Of course, you can find me in the social media world. Facebook Alignment Group is our page. At Shay John R is my Twitter handle. Of course, you can find me on LinkedIn, and we are on Google+. Feel free to contact me at jshay@alignment-group.com. And my website is www.alignment-group.com. And don't forget about the infographic. Head to the website, check the show notes, click the link, or click the picture at the top right side of the web page there. You'll see it. And get your hiring process, 6-step process infographic. I know I muddied that up, but you know what I mean. Until next time, keep filling the funnel.